Welcome home. We are WNST. Tassel, Baltimore. We're AM 1570. We're Baltimore Positive is the way to find us out in the real world. Luke Jones can be found at Baltimore Luke. We have such a busy week ahead here with baseball. Hopefully it lingers longer and we're into next week with baseball. We're going to be putting the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out on the road next Friday, the 11th, celebrating Luke's birthday, which is this week, my birthday, which is the end of next week, and Sammy Hagar and John Wood and some of the other great people that were born on October 14th, and Jim Palmer as well, even though he won't celebrate me. The Raven Scratch also will be available next Friday at Pizza John's, where they do have a delicious crab cake. But Luke's not going to know that because he's going to be eating the pizza and the crinkle cut fries and probably meatball sub, cheesesteaks. Unbelievable at Pizza John's. We'll be down at Back River Neck Road. All of it brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with Jiffy Lube Multi-Care. They're sending Luke out onto the road. I am banned from Oriole Park. I am banned from Owings Mills. Luke will be covering wherever they allow him this week. I don't know that we're going to be doing a lot of Ravens practice this week. It's kind of a weird week. Oysters come out this week. It is our 26th anniversary. Our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions, 1-800-CLEAN-WATER is the way to find them, as well as at Liberty Pure. They keep the water clean in my house. They're well-water people. They're experts on making the water safe and fresh and delicious and good in the shower and all that. You don't have to have green crap in the bottom. If you got green crap in the bottom of your drain, you need Liberty Pure Solutions because you got bad well water, and that'll kill you. So don't do that. So our friends there will take care of that, as well as your plumbing. And last but never least, our friends at Royal Farms, putting the coffee in a cup, making all that stuff happen for all of us in Curio Wellness and Foreign Daughter, getting us out on this oyster tour, which has been delicious. I hope that the oyster tour, I'm launching it October 1st. I'm hoping it like October 26th. We're still getting ready for World Series Game 1 here against, I don't know, the Phillies, because I want to drive to the games once Major League Baseball credentials me at the end of the month and I get in. LA would be a little bit more expensive, but nice this time of year. I got a Korean ice place out there. But let's suspend all sugar plums and thoughts of Delman Young and moments at Camden Yards to talk about something that really happened to Camden Yards on Sunday night that was just as monumental, which was defense. Defense. That's an old Baltimore Colts chant that Joe Flacco made right over the weekend. Luke, big win, man. I don't know, man. We're not going to have a lot of oxygen for the Ravens this week, right? Baseball Tuesday, baseball Wednesday, maybe baseball Thursday. God bless Dean Kramer. Maybe off the Yankee Stadium Saturday, you and I, before they even play in Cincinnati on Sunday. Then we'll get a little more football in here, but it was such an impressive victory. And you and I argued about whether they should run, whether they should pass, whether they should run, whether they should pass. I know one thing. They got off the field against Josh Allen, and they shut down a quarterback that we were all giving him the Johnny Bravo MVP of September award until Sunday night showed up in Baltimore.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there is no MVP in week 4, but Josh Allen was playing at a really high level the first 3 weeks of the season. And let's face it, this pass defense was dead last in the NFL through the first 3 weeks. So it was a challenge on paper, very much. Not just a challenge on paper, a challenge, in real life. And this defense rose to the occasion. I mean, credit Zach Orr. I think you saw very early on they were going to run a lot of nickel with Nate Wiggins on the outside, Marlon Humphrey at inside. I think Marlon Humphrey's playing at a very high level. I kind of pushed back when you made mention of him last week because I think he's playing really well. I think this is the best version of Marlon Humphrey we've seen in a couple of years, and that's a good thing. But it's been a lot of guys, and what we saw Sunday night was a lot of guys doing big time heavy lifting. I mean, as much as we talked about Derrick Henry in the running game and how phenomenal that was, you still need to get stops on the other side of the ball. And you don't want to be in a position where you're having to go toe to toe and going back and forth and points are scoring at a prolific rate. And I mean, this defense did a tremendous job slowing Josh Allen and putting heat on him. And we'll get to Kyle Van Noy momentarily, but lots of nickel. And we've seen them use dime. They're willing to take Trenton Simpson off the field, which is something that I've talked about even during training camp with the young inside linebacker. Eddie Jackson comes in at safety. They keep Marlon Humphrey at the nickel. And then Kyle Hamilton comes into the box and is, playing dime back, playing linebacker, basically playing close to the line of scrimmage, which is peak Kyle Hamilton. He can do everything, but that's where I like him best, playing close to the line of scrimmage. And you just saw a defense that, let's face it, was missing Michael Pierce up front. I mean, that could have potentially posed some problems. And Buffalo ran the ball a little bit, but never to the degree where, oh my gosh, it's a problem. And James Cook's a good back too, so was good to see them do that. But I mean, they played a complete game. It's not as though you couldn't envision this happening from the standpoint of, look how well they played against Dallas for 3 quarters. Look how well they played against the Raiders for a half. Kansas City, okay, they gave up points, but it's not like the Chiefs hung 40 points on them, right? So it's not as though you didn't think this defense was capable, but hey, play 60 minutes. The idea of Ravens defense, the standard, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed didn't say play 30 minutes or play 45 minutes and then coast in the last quarter. It's a 60-minute game. We can all remember the NFL films clips of Ray Lewis on the sideline. It's a 60-minute ball game. We all remember that fondly. So it was good to see this year's Ravens defense get the memo there and play play that way. And for as much as things went sideways momentarily in the third quarter, what was it that got them back on track? It was the Kyle Van Noy play, on the trick play from Buffalo, which to me felt way too cute considering they had finally, started to get some mojo going offensively. But they made a play, and we've been talking about that. Going back to the Vegas game. I mean, even the Chiefs game. Each of these games, someone make a play. Someone on either side of the ball make a play. Last week, it was Lamar to Zay Flowers on third down, right? When they needed that conversion with 3 minutes to go. But on Sunday night, when things started to look a little, that they were teetering just a little bit in that third quarter, defense gets a takeaway. And that's what you've been waiting to see. And again, hats off to that defense. I think there were standout performances at every level. And you hold a Bills offense that had been as impressive as it was over the first couple weeks, scoring points. You hold them to 10 points, you've done something right. And certainly the Ravens did a lot right on Sunday night.
He is Luke Jones. He is Baltimore Luke. We're going to talk offense, defense. We're going to talk pitching and hitting and bullpen and all of that as we get into this week. And it'll be such a baseball week around here. Defensively, and the loss of Clowney, the loss of McDonald, the emergence of Zach Orr, and we were all like, give him a little time. And I think all the experts have said, give him a little time to figure out what he's got here. But the tightness of that back end, and we mentioned Marcus Williams and how much money was spent on the back end, and Marlon Humphrey and where he is in his journey, and where Simpson and some of the young linebackers, and how do you absorb losing Patrick Queen? We didn't love Patrick Queen till Roquan Smith showed up, and might not miss him till he's gone. And the pass rush that we had last year with Clowney specifically, and him being gone, that Owa, certainly Ajabo even made a little bit of a crinkle in this. So we're a month into this. We're 4 weeks into this. Certainly 2-2 is nothing to write home about, right? I mean, and I think we're all like, well, they're playing better than a 2-2 team. There was the pinky winky foot in the first week that might have gotten them past Mahomes, and then they just blew the game in the second week and almost blew the game in the third week, but they did have a big lead. They had big leads 3 out of the 4 weeks. They've had big leads, double-digit late leads in 3 out of the 4 games. That starts to sound familiar to last year, where they're blowing teams out. And, I mean, I don't know how many times we're going to see the 14-team backup quarterback that once played for Jim Harbaugh at San Diego, University of San Diego, 20 years ago. I don't know how often we're going to see him, but I hope it's more of that. And I get into this, and I'll talk to you about this, and we'll talk offense later, but having Lamar run into linebackers and leave his feet and go up in the air and all that, I want to see defenders doing that to Josh Allen, and I saw a little bit of that. I saw Josh Allen get up and say, ooh, I got hit, and shoulder pads out, and he looked a little like, oh, I'm in Baltimore, and we're getting our ass kicked, and everybody's wearing black.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad you brought that part up because that was another element that even when they were playing very well in the first half of these games, it hadn't felt as physical from this defense. Whereas I think Sunday night, I'm not saying there was a bounty or anything like that. Let's be clear. But I think it was very clear that these guys wanted to hit Josh Allen and they wanted to be the more physical team and they wanted to impose their will. And, whether it was prime time, the all black uniforms, whatever. I mean, look, I mean, and I'm sure, we'll get to John Harbaugh and, the fake time or the illegal timeout aside. The Ravens time in and time out. This is what they look like in primetime at home. I mean, they're now 21-3 under John Harbaugh in primetime home games. Yes, a big part of that is that they're just mostly really good most years. But
No, but those are games where they're playing other good teams
right,
allegedly.
exactly.
Allegedly,
You're
right?
right. And of course, you'll get the stray Thursday night game where they've played some bad Cleveland teams and some Thursday night games over the years and things like that. But yeah, generally speaking, they're more of your marquee matchups, and they've risen to the occasion. But you could really tell this defense. Kyle Hamilton even spoke about it in the post-game press conference that when they gave up the touchdown, and obviously that coincided with the offense going three and out a couple times, he kind of said that they kind of looked at each other. It's like, really, we're going to do this again? But they regrouped. They regrouped from that point, and they made a play on defense, and they got the ball back. And obviously, the offense scored a touchdown right after that with Lamar running into the end zone. So it was a very complete performance on the defensive side. Yeah, they gave up some yards here and there.
Here's a
I mean,
stat for you that I,
you're not
and
going to hold
I'm
the
just
Bills.
I'm perusing it. 3 for 13 on third
Go
down,
ahead.
just an unbelievable stat, right? Like
Yeah,
defensively, 3 for
yeah,
13 on
exactly.
third down. When you get into third downs and you get off the field 80% of the time, that you're going to win a lot of football games when you're getting off the field on third down. Wherever those third downs are, long, short, whatever it is, you are successful when that happens. And the other thing is they haven't taken the ball away a lot. They haven't been. We talked last week about Marcus Williams not performing. Geno Stone had 8 interceptions by this time, or whatever it was, right? Like they were,
Mm.
there was a knack for getting the ball, getting up in the air, getting the ball. I mean, Wiggins dropped two interceptions. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
literally dropped two in his hands interceptions in the game. Nothing changes a game like a turnover, and they haven't been that defense yet, but that's the next thing with hitting quarterbacks. And that's a good team they beat Sunday. That's a good offense. That's a world-class quarterback. That's a top
sure.
five quarterback. There are a lot of teams in the league who take Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson, as much as that would hurt your feelings. But that's a great offense they beat up on, and they checked every box. Forget Lamar and what Derrick Henry did. Forget the offensive side of the ball. The defense checked boxes against a capable quarterback, a capable offense, and not just check boxes, beat their ass, hurt their feelings, made them quit in the third quarter, brought their backup quarterback in. Mitch Trubisky played on Sunday night. So, all the way, we're going to take a break. They're not going to let me into practice this week. You're not going to be out there much this week. Pray for Dean Crane. Where's Jesus on that Jesus guy that comes out with the outfits? I need him with a good seat on Thursday if there's a Thursday game. We need to pray for the Orioles this week. But we're not going to talk a lot of football this week, and I don't know. It would be a great week to just sit around and talk about how impressive that win was on Sunday because we're not going to do a lot of it. But I stand and applaud. They don't look like a 2-2 team to me.
They're way better than a 2-2 team. I mean, I said it to you in our previous segment before we got into the philosophical debate about, how much throwing and running moving forward and what they're going to have to do when inevitably teams are going to try to adjust and stack the box and all that. There's always a cat and mouse game. And I think that's an important point to remember with the defense, right? I mean, as well as they played on Sunday night, then it's going to be the next adjustment and the next challenge. And you're going to go to Cincinnati and you're going to play a division rival who is still desperate to get themselves right after an 0-3 start. And okay, they got to win, but they're 1-3, right? I mean, we're talking how disastrous it would be for the Ravens to start 1-3, even though no, mathematically you still can get off the mat and be okay, but it's not good. You don't want to be 1-3. No one wants to be 1-3, obviously. But this was such a good performance. There was so much to like. Yeah, there were a few things here. I mean, you mentioned, I joked Nate Wiggins going to be on the jugs machine this week. And yes, I get it. Defensive backs, that's why they're a corner rather than a wide receiver, but those plays are valuable. You want takeaways. If you're a defense that's not going to take the ball away, it's very difficult to be a great defense if you don't take the ball away. I mean, period. Just look at the numbers, look at the statistics. I mean, it's especially in this day and age in the NFL with the way the rules pander to the offense. So, but you just said it, and I'll leave you with this point. I mean, they're 2-2. They have a challenge going to Cincinnati. I don't think this is a very good Bengals team right now. I think their defense kind of stinks right now. I think they're going to have to prove they can stop the run, and Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson and Justice Hill. And until they do, the Ravens should do that. And, this goes back to our previous conversation. But you look at the schedule on paper, and again, it's on paper. The Raiders are a great example of this. So I'm not making any assumptions here, not counting the chickens before they're hatched. But the schedule softens up some after this coming Sunday. So they're in a position where they win on Sunday, they're 3-2, and then you look at the next month, this team can be right where it wanted to be at the beginning of the season. And look, no one wants to start 0-2. 0-2 is more magnified than when you lose 2 games in a row in early October or mid-November or even in early December, right? I mean, it's just more magnified in the same way that if a baseball team gets off to a 2-8 start, it's a big deal. The second week of April, much more so than it is in July or August. But I think for the Ravens, and this is kind of my general thumbnail comment, there's going to be a lot of focus on the Orioles for however long the Orioles are playing, whether it's 2 days or 2 weeks, or we're talking about them in the World Series literally a month from now. But the Ravens kind of put themselves in a good position. Not that people won't watch Sunday, because I mean, if the Orioles are playing, Sunday's an off day for the division series, so that'll work out nice. But I think a lot of the juice, a lot of the oxygen, a lot of the energy will be on the Orioles. But the Ravens, this is kind of a good spot to leave off in terms of feeling really good about how they played Sunday night. And yeah, they've got to continue that. And you lay an egg against the Bengals, or the Bengals beat you, it allows the Bengals to then tie you up in the standings. And then you're kind of looking at 2-3 and you're saying, oh, okay. Not that it's the end of the world, but then you're starting to question some things again. But I mean, that was just such an impressive statement. And Kyle Hamilton said it best, I think. He was kind of asked if Sunday night's win proved anything. And he said, I think it says a lot, but we didn't just win a Super Bowl. And I think, that's the proper perspective that this team has right now. I mean, stack wins, keep getting better. As I said, for all this running, they're going to have to pass the ball at some point in time. And I think they're fully capable, and they're going to be ready to do that. And I think teams are going to adjust, and they're going to stack the box, and I think they're going to crush them with play action then, to a higher volume than what we've seen, which has been pretty good even when they, with the little bit they've thrown. And defensively, there'll be another challenge around the corner. This Buffalo team, as well as they played the first 3 weeks, let's call a spade a spade. It wasn't a murderer's row of opponents. I think the Bills are a team that they're banged up on defense right now. They've suffered attrition on the offensive side of the ball. To your point, they're more than capable. I mean, I'll give you one better. I'll tell you who might bet, my opinion, the 3 best quarterbacks in football. Patrick Mahomes, of course, and I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are right there. Those are my top 3 as things stand in late September of 2024. Okay, check back with me in a month or two, or a year or two, whatever. But that's what we're talking about here. So for the Ravens to do what they did to make Josh Allen and that offense look that way, it's a hell of a performance by that defense on Sunday night. And again, as attention shifts now to the Orioles for at least the next 6 days until Sunday, when the Ravens are in Cincinnati. Again, I think it leaves everyone feeling so much better about this football team. And 2-2, I get it. That's not a great record just in terms of wins and losses, but from a talent level standpoint, from a performance level standpoint, I can't sit here and tell you that I think that there are all these teams that are better than the Ravens right now. I think the Ravens compete and are as good as anyone in football right now from a talent level standpoint. Got to go out and do it for 60 minutes. They did that Sunday night. Now the challenge is continuing to do that moving forward as they turn the page and get ready for what's going to be a desperate Bengals team.
Couple things. Joe Flacco played on Sunday, threw touchdown passes and won a game.
He did.
And even had an incredible, because I think we don't really appreciate what a great quote Joe was in retrospect. You know what I mean? Especially as a grown-up about, Anthony Richardson's mother being 8 days older than him. So Joe played. Jaden Daniels played. And I got to just back up for a minute because you went on a roll here a minute ago. Three best quarterbacks or Mahomes, because we got to say Mahomes, Lamar, because you have to say Lamar and he's a two-time MVP. And then you throw Josh Allen in because he was the MVP until Sunday night. Joe Burrow may have something to say about that. I'm not bullish on Trevor Lawrence right now as a 1-1, or certainly not any number of other
Ugh.
quarterbacks from the New York Giants and other places. We beat up on Dak Prescott a couple weeks ago and thought, like these other guys that are well compensated and they get their television commercials and whatnot. And Leonard Raskin hates Joe Burrow. Just does. And anybody that hated LSU or hates the Bengals could hate Joe Burrow. I don't know. Joe Burrow would have an argument to be in that class you're talking about, and I think it's just a little dangerous. I know you got baseball in the brain now, and your mind's tickled with the bullpen and how Hyde's going to manage us. But throwing Joe Burrow out of that top group the week we have to go out there and play him after they just scored 34 points against a bad team, I don't know, dude. Joe Burrow to me still. I would feel better about going to Cincinnati if Andy Dalton were there.
I don't have to play him. I can say that if I want to. Oh, sure, sure. Look, I'm not. Look, I like Joe Burrow a lot. I was just giving you my top three. If you're asking me
Is he
for my
number four?
top 4, 5, 6, 7, Joe Burrow's in there somewhere.
All right.
I mean, he might, maybe. Look, I like Joe Burrow. I'll say this.
To me, they're
Joe
real
Burrow's gotta stay
quarterbacks and not
healthy.
real quarterbacks.
I mean,
We're
for all
playing a
the
real one this week, and that always worries me. That's all. When they have a real quarterback
fair.
and it's a division game and they're on the road and they're only 2-2, and I mean,
Yeah.
and they put together one four-quarter game the other night, very impressive at home. They are a different team on the road too, and I don't think we're just going to go out to Cincinnati, eat chili, and fart our way home. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be that easy.
I said they've got to go out there and play well because this is a Bengals team that I'd still put into that desperate category. I mean, they dropped to 1-4. And look, I'm not buying Pittsburgh in terms of like Pittsburgh being a team that's going to go 13-4 or anything like that. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I still think the Ravens and the Bengals are better than the Steelers. Um, their defense is really good, although it wasn't that great on Sunday. And Joe Flacco, I mean, it's pretty amazing. Side note on that on Flacco, because since you brought him up, I was thinking about this. I was a few days shy of my 25th birthday when Joe Flacco threw his first career touchdown against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I turned 41 later this week, and Joe Flacco just threw his latest touchdown pass against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I thought that I just thought about that. We all we get a little more reflective as we get closer to our birthday. But I was
Dude,
thinking
we're
about
getting to
that.
a different point with Flacco with
big
his
chunk
career,
of my lifetime
right?
seeing.
I mean, like this thing's lingering longer, and he's
Yeah,
really been a special guy in a lot of ways to be able to go franchise to franchise. And when he comes in, you don't think, oh shit, we're going to lose. You're thinking, yeah, we got a chance. He can throw the ball. If somebody gets open and they give him 3 seconds, he can deliver the ball, and he might get picked off too, but he's going to throw it, and he's going to be joyful when it's over with and be like, he remains my all-time favorite athlete, and he continues to do stuff even in a Colts uniform that gives me hives a little bit, but it's kind of neat. I don't.
yeah,
That's your word.
that's weird.
That's his word. It's neat, and he's talking about his kids watching him play, and like I'm like, wow, Joe. I love you, Joe.
Well, and how about now you have the added dynamic, and obviously they don't play them for a little while here, but in Cleveland, all you hear right now is Browns fans longing for and wishing they had kept Joe Flacco because of how bad Deshaun Watson has been. But I think, and again, I don't want to make too much out of, and it's not like Flacco did a ton in that game. I mean, came in and they had a lead and did a nice job in that way. But it really says something about someone who was as successful as he was at his peak, which obviously meant a Super Bowl MVP and a historic 2012 postseason run, get the contract, obviously did extremely well for himself financially. He'd be one of those guys that Andrew Brandt would say is in the sports business Hall of Fame because of how well he did financially relative to what player, I mean, we're not talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback here. We're talking about someone who had a good career, but certainly not an amazing, great career. But he's had this second act or third act or whatever you want to describe it as now as this backup quarterback who, let's face it, has had to that's humbling when the phone's not ringing for you. I mean, he dealt with that last year. He was sitting at home. Think about that. That's a very humbling thing. That's what most football players experience. For every Ray Lewis type that rides off into the sunset, you have hundreds of guys that the league retires them, not the other way around.
By the way, I
I
had
mean,
Matt Skura on a
yeah,
month
they'll
ago,
eventually
and
say I'm retired.
I asked Matt Skura if he's retired, and he said, I don't want to be. You know what I mean? I'm still training that if the Ravens needed me
Yeah.
because Patrick McCarry gets hurt, they could call on me and I could come in there and give him some plays. I mean, to your point, like I talk to him all the time, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But for Joe Flacco to be where he was, where his level of prominence was at one point, and to now have this second, third, fourth act, however you want to categorize it, there's a lesson there, I think, to young people in terms of, you know, you, it can humble you. Success is not guaranteed, and sometimes the opportunity is not going to call, but stay ready because it might at some point, and it did for him last year. And think about it. The only reason he's the backup quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts right now is because of how well he played with the Cleveland Browns last December. I mean, it's a pretty cool story, and it is weird that he's wearing the horseshoe. I mean, that's definitely especially for older Baltimore fans, that's certainly something that's odd to see. Not quite Johnny U in a Chargers uniform, let's be clear, but
I know Tomlin has no
kind of
love
neat
for
to see that.
Flacco at all. He'll never wear a Steelers jersey, but we're getting close now. You know what I mean? We're getting close.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I'll say this. I mean, Pittsburgh at least their offense showed a little bit of a pulse when they fell behind, but the Justin Fields thing, Russell Wilson. I mean, we'll see. Keep in mind the Steelers were undefeated going into Sunday, but they had scored a grand total of 3 touchdowns. Now they did score that many touchdowns in that game, so again, give them some credit in that regard. But I still think, you know, through 4 weeks, if you ask me who's the best team in the AFC North, I don't hesitate to say the Baltimore Ravens. I know it doesn't look that way in the win-loss department, and again, they've got to go play in Cincinnati against a Bengals team that again is trying to get off the mat after their 0-3 start. But I think the Ravens are the best team in the division. I think they're the most balanced team in the division at this point in time, because I don't love the Steelers offense and I don't like the Bengals defense whatsoever, and I don't like much of anything about the Browns at this point. I mean, my goodness, but hey, you got to go out and play, and hopefully weeks 2 and 3 serve as the lesson that yeah, you got to go play 60 minutes. It seems like they got the message on Sunday night, and again, great win. They're in perfectly fine shape. As we said late last week, no matter how they won the game on Sunday night, it was an opportunity to reset after that 0-2 start. They've done that. They're 2-2. They've got 14 games or no, 13 games to go. Sorry. And they're fine. Now it's a matter of play good football week in and week out. And if they do that, then they're going to be right there. And, by the way, we haven't mentioned this. I'll mention this in passing and I'll leave you with this. Kansas City Chiefs, Rashee Rice, possible torn ACL. They've already lost Isaiah Pacheco. Marquise Brown at best is coming back for the postseason. They've lost a lot of weapons on that side of the ball. And look, they're Kansas City, and as long as Patrick Mahomes is and Andy Reid are upright and playing or calling the plays, you're never going to dismiss them or be disrespectful of them. But that's a Chiefs team they've lost a lot on the offensive side of the ball. So if you're looking ahead, way, 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 way ahead, 4 months ahead, we're talking now. That's something to keep in the back of their mind. But just keep winning, keep stacking wins, keep playing complete games like they did on Sunday night. That you've done it, so now you need to do it every week. You do that, then I think this team's going to be exactly where it wants to be come November and December. But next up is the Cincinnati Bengals, and hey, it's a division game, so no matter what you think about these teams on paper, that you can expect it's going to be a close one. And like I said, Bengals team defensively, they got to prove they can stop the run. So, I'm not going to say it's going to be exactly like the last couple of weeks, but yeah, start off with that and they stack the box. Then throw it over their heads. It can be a simple game when you can execute as well as the Ravens did on Sunday night.
I'm not interested. I'm not here to talk about Joe Burrow. I'm here to talk about Reagans and Burns and Lugo and Eflin. Hopefully not walking Kramer on Thursday, but hopefully for the right reasons. We're gonna have baseball on the brain here the next 48, 72, 96 month, however long it's gonna be. We are doing the Maryland Oyster Tour. It's all brought to you by our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions, 1-800 Clean Water. They do my water. They do well water. They keep the water clean in my home for my make my coffee in the morning and my showers. But they also do the same things the oysters do out in the bay, which is keep the bay clean. We're doing the Oyster Tour this month. Our friends at Curio Wellness and Far and Daughter have me out on that. 26 oysters, 26 days, 26 ways to benefit the Oyster Recovery Partnership. We talked a lot about that last week. We'll continue that. Had a great show on Friday at Costas. You'll be hearing it in and out this week about the Capitol Center. The guy who did the Capitol Center retrospective book, and he was just a great guest. Great pictures, great stuff. I hope you check that out. Our friends at Costas did that. No crab cake tour this week. Our friends at the Maryland Lottery have powered us up for next Friday. Hopefully, after we beat the Yankees, getting ready for the ALCS, Friday the 11th, next Friday. A lot of baseball between now and then, hopefully. Raven Scratch also will have at Pizza John's. It's Luke's birthday this week. It's my birthday next week. We're going to convene over Pizza John's. Jiffy Lube powering that up as well as getting Luke down to the ballpark. Not out to Owings Mills so much this week because I am banned. He is allowed. I have been restricted by Greg Bader, and Katie Griggs can now sign on for this, and David Rubenstein and the Whistler. They can all own that they are enacting the ghost of Peter Angelos' hatred of me by banishing me from the press box this week. I'll be watching on television, but I've given Mr. Rubenstein 6 months because so many people have said, yeah, you're banned from now, but he's a Luis Aparicio fan. How's he going to ban you? Oh, do tell. Dear David Rubenstein is available out at Baltimore Positive beginning today as well. And Luke, I must say this. I think people are now hearing when they get the WNST tech service, the 6,000 people that are on, when they get it, they hear it in your voice, which I'm hoping they do. And you're saying, Cole Roofing, brought to you by Cole Roofing. Press stop to opt out. So all of that is happening. 410-821-9678 is the number. If you just text join, you get on our text service. Lots of people have asked for years. I had no way to sign you up because I lost control of my own text service about a decade ago. I now have control of our text service thanks to our friends at Text Groove. We'll be sending more of those out in better ways, and big appreciation to Bill Cole and Cole Roofing and our friends there, Gordian Energy, for powering that up. Luke and I are going to talk a little more football, but not till later in the week. We'll get ready for Joe Burrow. It is all seams. It's all bunting. It's all shadows falling across Oriole Park at Camden Yards. It's kind of sad we don't have Palmer and Ben McDonald for all of this. I'll ease into all of this, but Burns and Reagans, Eflin and Lugo, we'll see how the rest of the week goes. Luke is going to rest up for afternoon baseball here this week. I hope to see folks out on the internet having a good time. I hope to see a moment that's greater than Delman Young, and we'll get back onto the Ravens beat as they head off to Cincinnati later on in the week. I am Nestor. He is Luke. You can follow his work out at Baltimore Luke, and you can follow all of our work at AM 1570. Towson, Baltimore, WNST. We never stop talking Baltimore. Positive.